Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3's Black Ice, and we're getting ready for a naval war. We're going to, of course, be fighting on the land as well, but sort of naval early on. Now, Barbarossa has happened. At first, the Soviets pushed into East Prussia and some of the Polish territories, but Germany's now pushed out here. So we're seeing advances there. We'll see how this goes. Barbarossa. Okay, so we have our patrol force here for anti-submarine warfare. We'll see how much of an issue that is. What's the level of the attack? No. Defense, strategic care. Don't know. This is AI versus AI. And landing craft flotilla is good. Big thing with those is they're expanding the range. I'm not planning on building frigates, so we're not going to waste a slot right now. But let's see, we could... Yeah, we're going to need those as nice escort. Capabilities for our destroyers against air attack. Jungle warfare equipment. That is a one and done. Nice. We're not going to be doing any of these anytime soon. We're going to stick with some of the upgradable, like anti-air capabilities, but just oh, we also want to do here. Now let's do anti-air, light anti-air first, then do what is, we push something too far, camouflage designs as well. Well, tenacious defense. Okay, that's a 44. Extreme terrain. Okay, that, yeah, that will help us out in extreme terrain. Drinking beer is a sport. Well, I could see drinking a certain amount of beer and then trying to do something. You know, like walk in a straight line or... Oh. Oh. Just want to make sure, yeah, we're not at war. Okay, this is what I was a little worried about a long time ago. Okay, well, Prolong the Neutrality Act. Well, let's look at our popularity. Isn't well. We're going to do it. We want that. Getting all that dissent is going to be too much. Okay, let me just clear this out, and then I'm going to talk a little bit here. Twin engine pilot training advance. Right, and the other one here, engineer unit training. Okay. Oh. Okay, we're up pretty good on a lot of these techs. I know I could push into the 42s, but they're just probably enough. These 1940 techs. I want to keep my battleships going. Right. Well, as you can see here, Japan, who for a long time, and I was worried about it earlier on, we're getting more consumer goods. Let's just go to need here. Has joined the Axis, and now they've presumably been asked to come in on the war. So now we're seeing them push down Malaya. These are scripted invasions. I do believe they're triggered with the start of the war. Looks like it. I don't think the AI is smart enough to do all these different landing zones. That was probably very much a scripted invasion there. Now, what if this had happened historically? I mean, PC game is kind of like a sport. Yeah, PC gaming is an esport. Hello, Boba Fett. How you doing? This is what, in essence, Japan really sort of wanted to do at this point. They've been cut off from the oil critically, but other materials. And they were running out of an oil reserve. They couldn't keep it up, keep up their level of activity in their war in China. Again, for those of you who go, oh, this is unhistorical, Japan has conquered China, blah, blah. Yes, we know this. We know this. It's just the AI is too stupid. The AI will do two things. One, they will strip every single garrison, so they've artificially made the garrisons forces way too big, way too heavy to move. You did air quotes there, but you didn't see. So that these islands are still garrisoned. They would move all the damn garrison units, including garrison units in Japan, and they would focus all their production on fighting the war in China. And if it was going to be historical, China would be strong enough to resist that. And then you would either have Japan just stuck in a war with China and sitting off to the side and not, so you wouldn't have the World War II experience, Japan going against the Western allies, if you will. So you wouldn't have that, or you would still have that happen, but without a scripted invasion, you wouldn't have any. You would just be Japan declaring war and then doing absolutely nothing about it, or you'd have these scripted invasions, but you would still have the sort of clogging up of production here. for this war, and you wouldn't have shipbuilding and aircraft building for the Pacific War. So they make it so that Japan wins here. Now, if Japan had won here, they wouldn't need to go and wouldn't even want to go to war with the other powers. But, so this is sort of have to do to give this. But now we have this. What would have happened if this happened historically? Japan decides to come in and attack, particularly Britain. Japan believed, and this is very much like tonight. Don't quite. Oh, I don't know. Don't know exactly what you're saying, Boba Fett, but sorry, sometimes I don't get context from some of the posts. Again, warfare is a political act. Politics is perception. Japan perceived that if they attacked Britain directly, the U.S. would come into it. Looking at the very real historical connections between the U.S. and Britain, looking at World War I, they figured the U.S. would come into it, so Japan needs to attack the U.S. to sink the fleet. Would the U.S. have come into it? I think FDR could have convinced enough of the senators to declare war over this. Why? Well, now it hadn't happened before. One, America is still very much an isolationist country. We're moving back that way. If you people out there in Europe and other places don't realize it, but we're never going to be back the old isolationism, I don't think. But we're just because two people decide to start a war, or somebody starts a civil war. It used to be America would jump into it for good reason when it's a Cold War, between the U.S. and the Soviets, but post-Cold War. See, Cold War thinking has remained around too long. Got to get into every war. Some wars you need to get into, and that doesn't mean you don't sell weapons or don't help out one side more than the other, but intervention you don't need to do anymore. Japan takes over Indochina, partially to get its resources, but I want to say mostly to stop Indochina being used as a supply route into China. Japan does very little, to my knowledge, in Indochina. They don't, unlike Manchukuo, they're doing huge investments. They're sending over some Japanese settlers to, set up farms and things like that. They're not doing anything like that in Indochina. They're leaving, to the best of my knowledge, and I'm sure I'm wrong on some of this, but they're leaving the French administration in place. I don't know how disarmed the French garrisons, I know I've said this before, you're told to stay in garrison. They're not put in concentration camps or prisoner of war camps or whatever like this. The French soldiers, they just stay in your garrison. I don't know how disarmed they are. I don't even know if they're disarmed at all. They're just told to stay in their barracks. And they basically do so. Not that they can't go out, on drinking or whatever, but they're no longer deployed as military forces. But my understanding is the civil administration, they needed to prevent China getting supplies. Yeah. And so now this happens, and it's very gentle happening. And America is not, the French administration, my understanding, basically stays and continues to administer Indochina. Now, Japan does put occupation troops there. There are some fighting with proto-Vietnamese forces, sort of armed by Americans. Very much armed by Americans, shall we say. I don't know where they got most of their arms, maybe from attacking the Japanese, but they were given some arms by the Americans. The Americans ideologically are not pro-colonialism over large indigenous populations, which is different than America, the Americas, North and South. We at least see it as different. Whether the rest of the world sees a distinction there or not, that's another case. But we can debate that some other time. Now, there is a difference between occupying large territories and occupying something like Hong Kong and Singapore. Hong Kong and Singapore were basically two uninhabited islands, or virtually so, that are built by Britain in this case, into a colony situation. And those kind of things, America is not against. So if you go to somewhere, you find, whether you conquer it in war or you buy it or whatever, and you build something there, and sure, it very well in both Hong Kong and Singapore are mixed ethnic groups and not just pure British, but that's seen by America. I'm just trying to give you the American perspective at the time, as I understand it, at least. Are not seen as evil colonialism. They're seen like colonial outposts, sort of like America. They're trading centers, and it's different. And they see very much. And look, you got to understand this. Yes, there was the Aztec and the Inca empires in America, and there's some other sort of what we sort of call nations, large cultural groups with multiple tribes in them, in the Americas. But all of the Americas were in what we would call the Stone Age. You realize that when Christopher Columbus shows up, they're in the Stone Age, or if you want to call it the Gold Age, or I don't know if they even did much silver. I don't know how much silver they did, maybe some, but yeah, they made gold ornaments and such, so that is a metal. But otherwise, they're in the Stone Age. Yes, they have for North and South, because this is Aztec and this is the Inca Empire. The Mayans had an empire here that was long gone, like gone by 500 years or something when Columbus shows up. I don't know. And there's the some earlier empires, or large areas, whether you want to call them empires, but the Incas are down here. Neither of them had large common uses of the wheel. Okay, and I don't even know really if they used much wheels at all. They used llamas down here as beasts of burden, as domesticated, but they didn't have wheels with roads. If you look at their roads, they're often they're not wide like we would think of a road today, but they're wider than a track. But they have periodic steps in them, because they're not using wagons along them. They're using pack animals. We're under tin embargo, thus they couldn't really produce bronze. Right? Yeah, and I don't know if they did copper at all. I don't know if they did copper. They may have. Ragar, trust me, there's details I don't know, but they're virtually in the Stone Age. They don't really have, the American Indian does not build even a primitive wagon wheel. They do, they have poles dragged by horses to move stuff around. The Incas are not using wagons. I think they use rollers and whatever to move some of their large stone constructions. Mexico City here is in a valley that basically is a swamp that they set up, build sort of artificial islands in it to sort of secure themselves from the other competitors, sort of like the story of Rome. It's a city-state that gets security and starts conquering its people around it. So it is a sort of a waterborne transportation system, not wagons or carts really. So, and they the best of my knowledge, they have no significant domesticated animals. They don't have cattle. The cattle are import. Bovines are imports. Horses are imports. So I don't think they have any sort of cattle at all. I don't even know if they have pigs. Because there are hogs in America that are natural to North America, but I don't think they have a domesticated pig. So they don't have much in the way of domesticated animals. I'm not even sure if they have chickens. I think chickens may be an import from Europe. And yeah, down here they have the llama as a beast of burden that's been domesticated. So a sophisticated Stone Age world in some parts. Other parts, we always, we talk about the Stone Age. Well, the Native Americans, they were in the Stone Age. They were flint knapping, to make flint knives and make flint arrowheads. They're freaking Stone Age people. And, yeah, I know it's sort of cool, and I saw some still photos, supposedly, I don't know if it's true, but supposedly some Indian tribe, or whatever you want to call them, but I'm going to call them Indian tribe here in the Amazon basin, that are still yet to be contacted, and they were like pointing up or trying to throw spears up. Somebody was speculating at the drone that was flying over that they were seeing. So they were seeing some sort of drone or whatever flying around, and these people, what's this flying thing? And they were, that was taking pictures of them, and maybe, I don't know, trying to talk to them or something. But so there are, it's sort of picturesque, primitive peoples now living in the jungle in a primitive state versus some of the modern slums. Now, some of the slums in Brazil, they sort of kind of have running water, but there's still a lot of shit everywhere, literally shit, just out in the streets and whatnot. So, yeah, maybe some of the really impoverished people here are living about as, it might be better to be a Stone Age person in the jungle. Might be, I'm saying, I'm not. But if you can move out of either the worst of poverty, it's going to be better than goddamn Stone Age living in Brazil or wherever. So to go, and now nobody wants to give up their culture, their language to a foreign conqueror, and they're not just going to change including changing of a mindset. It's a mindset change, not just here's metal. Yeah, the Indians, they loved metal knives and metal hatchets. They took to them instantly. To the best of my knowledge, seeing all of that, they never once went out and created their own iron. I don't even know if they even set up their own blacksmithing shops once they figured out. There are now, of course, and I say this because there are, as time goes on, there are tribes, and there are still some tribes here, and they're often, you look at them, you can hardly tell they're Indian nowadays because they've been intermixed. But there are tribes here that, by the time America is being formed in the early years, they're very Europeanized. I mean, they're wearing European clothes, they're speaking English. They may still speak some of their original language as well, and they're living in, log cabin type, split rail kind of stuff. The same type of housing that white people are living in, at the time. Just either late colonial or post-colonial America. And so, these Indians have a gradient of contact, but while they're still sort of somewhat independent, I don't even know that they're even, getting metal and of a an iron sort and reforming it into any new things, let alone going out and figuring out, that's an iron ore vein, let me go get it and smelt it into usable iron. They never do this. It is a cultural limitation that they have. So either they become anglicized or they're Indian in culture and whatnot, in that they live, most all, and I've known a few, one good friend, now he's mixed with white and Filipino, but, very much involved with his tribe and whatnot. They're all basically anglicized. Now they may carry on certain language, certain his best friend was an Indian hoop dancer of very high regard, and I knew him as well, but more as a friend of a friend. So they keep alive elements of their culture certainly, but otherwise they're anglified. Okay, these people, and so either they're anglified or they're Indians, and they don't. In the way they live, they don't, if you will, progress. They're not moving in stages to civilization. They either become civilized, or they are living in a primitive Stone Age existence using rifles that they get, or a hatchet that they get, or whatever from the modern world. So this is a defense, if you will, of not just as in we didn't do a bad thing, we did a good thing. Yes, large numbers of people died, but people were dying every goddamn day of, basic lack of medicine, okay? People were dying because the harvest failed, because the buffalo didn't come, because of whatever. People were dying. And of course, if you look at the Aztecs, they did human sacrifices. And I don't know, they sort of ate the hearts out of it. I guess that is cannibalism, but it wasn't so much for dietary, food supplement reasons, it was more ritual. And it was just a few people, I think, that actually would eat the heart or something. But they definitely did mass hundreds or thousands in a day human sacrifices down here. So it wasn't some sort of paradise that Europe found and then destroyed. It was a either brutal imperial existence of one sort or another, or it was subsistence level Stone Age environments that the Europeans found. So they do a good thing by coming in and conquering. Now, yes, we can talk about some of the Trail of Tears and some of the bad elements that didn't need to happen. Absolutely. But you needed to hunt down Geronimo and his band of Apache warriors who were slaughtering people. You needed to do some of that. So yes, overall, Anglo and Spanish primarily. Yeah, there's Portuguese, and yeah, there's some French, but basically it's British, and then both with the Americans inheriting the British and the Spanish colonial. We do a good thing, people. We do a good thing in our conquest and reorganization of the Americas. Yes, there are bad aspects that didn't need to happen. But overall, we on the balance of things, we do a good thing by coming in here and taking over. Okay, the Australians and the New Zealanders do the same. Okay, they find Stone Age peoples down here. Starstreak here is from New Zealand. He's not currently in New Zealand. If I'm not going to, I mean, he will say, but don't need to dox his current location, or even generally speaking. But he's from New Zealand, and we have a few regular viewers from Australia too as well. And I'm not saying, and you can see like Quigley Down Under and great sort of cowboy movie set in Australia where the sort of Australian rancher is hunting Aboriginals. Yeah, I'm not saying that every single thing that they did was necessary for the conquest, like purely as a defensive measure from Aboriginals attacking. I don't know how often Aboriginals were attacking like a homestead in Australia. I don't know. I just quite honestly don't know. I know now. Sometimes it was in America. Sometimes it was a reservation. You can see sort of rewatched it, and I didn't like it as much as the first time, just because I sort of seen it before and it's sort of overdone. Not Tombstone, that's down in Arizona. I forget it, but the Gold Rush town series. Sorry, I'm blanking on the name. That had sort of basically been set up as by the government before they discovered the gold there, as being sort of a not quite a reservation, but sort of a treaty land. So yes, sometimes the settlers had sort of been, oh, well, this is land that the Europeans sort of kind of said that is theirs now. And then some other settler would go, hey, this looks like a good spot, and just move in there. And then the locals that sort of saw that it is their territory would attack them and butcher women and children and whatnot, not just combatants. And yeah, okay, sometimes it might sort of kind of be, the Anglos pushing in, just generally speaking, but even when just large territories, areas that the Indians were migratory across, meaning they weren't like, because all land is sacred or whatever, and they warred amongst themselves over whose territory was whatever. They would come in and butcher settlers a lot. Men, women, children, everybody, butcher them all. Not just, oh, hey, if you have a gun, we shoot you back. No, they butcher, they mutilate, all kinds of stuff. Maori were heading the same way as the Eastern Islanders, having wiped out large bird species and burnt down loads of forest. Europe's found tribes fighting over scarce resources. Absolutely star streak. Yes, I didn't quite know that they were going down the Eastern Islanders' path of overpopulation for the amount of resources they could do without the modern benefit of farming, both as in plants and animals, raising them and doing. That's sort of why Europeans are. Malthus, I often post because people talk about the world is overpopulated. The world is not overpopulated. The world can handle a lot more people. But if you were still doing, Malthus would be right, if you're still just doing hunter-gatherer, food-based kind of things, if you're just sort of kind of planting a little bit, but mostly, gathering food in the wild and then, hunting down the buffalo without, raising replacement buffalo. And yes, if America continued to cut down all of its forests like it did early on, just because they seemed endless early on, without replanting forests to reharvest kind of thing, yeah, we would use up all of our forests. But if we replant, and a lot of these trees take 20 or 30 years to build. Well, I'm older than 30 years old, so yeah, you can grow a nice big tree in 30 years. No, not a great old huge redwood, but you can start regrowing those too. And so you just manage these things and you can deal with this stuff. So we definitely have the situation of war being fought differently between the Indians here in America than the Europeans. We want to see soldiers kind of thing versus other soldiers where they would do population warfare, take slaves, kill everybody else kind of warfare. And so yes, we needed to hunt down tribes that weren't going to peacefully live. Now, yes, we did also stick tribes into very poor living areas. Yes, it's not a perfect record. It isn't, it's a record of the people of the times. They weren't perfect. We're not perfect today. But the Americas and Australia and New Zealand, which America sees as a similar experience to them, are coming into an area of primitive Stone Age peoples. And in most of these, it varies a little bit in Latin America. Some areas are, like Bolivia, are more indigenous, if you will, genetically, versus European, where Argentina is like mostly European, and where like a lot of places like Mexico sort of comes from the word mestizo or mixed, is a mixed heritage, genetically, that it's a mix of European and indigenous populations now. So it varies in different areas in America, and some of it is replacement of peoples, some of it is just intermixing of peoples. But as one of the guys I watch on another channel who's Mexican American, truly Mexican American, not a Mexican, a Mexican who was born in America. Yeah, he doesn't want to live in a teepee, because that's what, and if you see his face, that he is more, at least apparently, more indigenous people genetically than European, though he's probably a bit mixed. Yeah, he doesn't want to live in a teepee or in a mud brick building, a pueblo or some sort of thing. He doesn't want to. He wants to live in a house with electricity, and so he is ultimately grateful for the European conquest. Again, he probably wouldn't. Oh well, he'd probably be emotionally on the side of, the people that had bad things happen to them. But ultimately, it is for the betterment of everyone. And yes, people just don't like to be conquered. God, if there are aliens out there, and if you can readily travel between the stars, God, I don't want to be discovered. If you're discovered and then they come in and want to conquer you because they're going to uplift us, I would rather uplift ourselves and go meet them as opposed to have them come and meet us. You never want to be the discovered people. You want to be the people doing the discovering. So, but yeah, we may be living in what other peoples on other planets would consider a primitive state, and they need to uplift us, and we may want to fight against that. So yes, and this is all getting back to it. So the U.S. has never been comfortable with the idea of greater European conquest of, say, something like India, because they see it as a civilization. Especially when the conquest happens. Okay, they don't have muskets. They're not building muskets. They definitely, some artisans, because there are some high-tech artisans that are working in metal in India, when Clive and whatnot was coming in and conquering India, could make a lock, the part of the musket, with a cock, and it's called a lock, that sort of lock work that you can cock it, all that. Yes, they can. There's a few that could probably turn out something like that if they saw a sample of it. But even creating spring steel that you have to for that kind of thing is a bit hard for them. So later on, after the Europeans are there, they do have some musketry, but it's all matchlock. Into the 18th century, they're making matchlock muskets because they just can't do the lock work locally on any scale, and even sort of high-end stuff. I don't know if you really can locally. So, but these are people that are working with metal. They've got sort of high-tech swords, but they're coming up against musket-wielding, Europeans. So they're a step down on technology, but they're not total primitives. They're not Stone Age people. And similarly with China, who also, even more than India, I would say, is resisting European technology. And like when America sort of shows up and knock, knock, we're here, open your doors to Japan, not to conquer, but just open your doors. They find a society that's working with steel samurai swords and other sort of high-tech capabilities, but they're just not up to European standards. So they don't see the need or the concept that it's good just to conquer them, like the British do in India or wherever else. But they want to see a certain level of international trade, a certain level of openness to international things. Absolutely. And so they see that as different. And so they're not terribly worried about what happens in Indochina. And this is, of course, happens only after France is completely defeated. Where Britain is a different case, and it would definitely include places like Singapore and threaten Australia. So I do believe, and we're all getting back to what would happen if this arrangement comes about. I do believe FDR could have convinced the Senate, and that's who you have to convince, the Senate to declare war on Japan, the Empire of Japan. and he would definitely hit the terms the Empire of Japan. And because the Roosevelt family had a multi-generational tradition of dealing with the China trade, so they are emotionally on the Chinese side of the conflict early on, not just on, oh, there's a conquest by one over another. No, they're sort of emotionally on the Chinese side of the equation, just as to which culture do they like the best. The Delanors or the Roosevelts or whoever do have a China trade history going on, but that isn't enough to draw them into the war with Japan, and that isn't enough to get the American people in. It would be seen as a betrayal. Japan had been an ally in World War One. Yeah, it's mostly to try to pick up German islands sitting out in the Pacific, but still, and Japan had been an ally of Britain until the London Naval Treaty. That as one of the elements of it was that alliance had to be broken up. That both sides agreed to. I mean, they were dealing with the French and America and whatnot, but because it was seen that if Japan was an ally of Britain, that made the British fleet too strong. It was more focused on Britain, and that if Britain goes to war with somebody, then Japan comes in too, just because, and now Britain is. So you had to add the Japanese fleet to the British fleet. So a former ally coming to war, we sort of kind of understand that you want to conquer an empire, and you're going after China, but now you're turning on your former allies. This is just a bit too much, and I think FDR could have convinced the people and the government to go to war with Japan. Now, and Hitler probably would have been stupid enough to declare war against America at that point. The American resolve would not have been nearly as strong. My parents, particularly, my parents' generation, and my family is very much a West Coast family, so this may go back to my grandparents, or not all of them were born on the West Coast, but all of them lived most of their life in California here. So this may be more of a Californian thing than, nationwide. But my parents' generation, and for sure my grandparents' generation, they didn't hate Japanese people, but they were pissed at Japan. If you sort of get the distinction there. So they wouldn't and think badly about individual Japanese. No. But they hated Japan and what Japan did. For Pearl Harbor, they had not forgiven, and this is to their deaths. For my grandparents, they had not forgiven Japan for what they did. It's that visceral of a situation. It's significant. It's not quite the disdain that they had for Nazis, and they always had good feelings about Italy, but it didn't like the fascists and Mussolini, and they definitely, shall we say, saw the Japanese people as being an insular people that were propagandized by their government. So of course the people supported their emperor and the war party and all this stuff, but they just saw the Japanese people as being manipulated into their aggressions against the world, shall we say. And so they didn't hate the individual Japanese man or woman, but they hated the government. They hated, any sort of, if you're a soldier, you're a sailor, or whatever. They hated them, and it went deep. It went deep over Pearl Harbor, and yeah, it wouldn't have been that way had Japan waited 24 or 48 hours before declaring war and then attacking. Now, it might not have been a surprise attack in Pearl Harbor because the Navy might have put the ships out at sea, but all they would have had to do is put up, scout planes, find those ships at sea, and do a carrier strike on them and sink them. And had they done that, that would have been a very, very different reaction. Oh, Britain is... Oh, no, this is... What? Okay, why is this considered British territory here? This is weird. I don't get all this. Okay, well, whatever. So it was a visceral, it wasn't quite as, there's just disdain for Nazis. I mean, which is beyond just hatred. It's just, the Nazis are just scum. But they really, really did not like Japan for how they started the war. And that wouldn't have been the case had FDR got America in the war over Britain. So could Japan have inflicted enough casualties on the Americans to get them to negotiate a peace settlement? Trying to think of the right words there. Maybe. But I don't think it would be one that would leave the Japanese empire intact. I'm not saying they still might not possess something like Korea and, Taiwan here, that they wouldn't, be Greater Japan, but I don't think they would have accepted a surrender that would have left Japan in China, maybe, and before when they were negotiating to get rid of the embargoes, my understanding is Japan was going to be allowed to hey, you just got to get out of China. You can still keep Manchukuo kind of thing, but you just can't be in China. In Japan, of course, that was unacceptable. They weren't going to accept a Japan occupying the Philippines. Now, and if you want to go, well, that was American possession, they're just going, no, the Philippines were scheduled to be independent in 1945. America very much saw that as a protectorship once they got the territory from Spain for eventual independence. Yes, America wanted to keep Subic Bay, and I don't know exactly where it was, and Andrews Air Force Base, which were both eventually built there, and before there they were thinking more in terms of Navy. And both of those were destroyed by a volcano, and the current Philippine government at the time sort of, America out, because they saw the negativity of having an American air base, and there is, a negativity of that there, but they lost the good bits of it, the economic bits of it. So America has moved most of its over to Okinawa, or, wherever over here is most of it over our station there, or Guam, instead of in the Philippines. But America always sort of wanted to, probably maintain a basing or two in the Philippines, but otherwise they were scheduled for independence. Barring something extraordinary, it would have happened. So it wasn't so much that we wanted the territory, it was going to be unacceptable to us. So that's my assessment, is that FDR could have used an invasion like this to get America into the war against Japan, and Hitler would have foolishly, because that's what he does do, um, declare war on America and gets us into the European war. Japanese are going after some British heavy cruisers there. Mexico, okay. I don't know if you're live or if you're watching later. Post your thoughts on, would America have gone to war over Japan declaring war against, primarily it's the British. I mean, the Dutch do count, but it's really mostly the British or the Commonwealth. But I say yes. Happy to hear other people's opinions. Okay. New destroyers are coming. Good. We'll put them up here. What model of... Sims class. Okay. We're getting better than those old wicks. I'd like to get that up. You demand war. Well, we're not going to probably go to war today. Or no. Let's... Do we have any? Okay, we do have some liners here. Well, we're at peacetime, so let's send you up there. We're going to create... We're going to send at least 3 divisions to the Philippines right now. Okay, battleship crew training. Very good. Crew training 41. We'll probably be back for those. More training soon. I just want to get some of the structural aspects organized up. Secondary guns. Not so much. Do some of this because we have enough, likely have enough time to upgrade our and produce more smaller warships as time goes on. Rebase. Hello, Ruthenium. How you doing? And if anybody's new here, please hit the subscribe or follow button. Do appreciate it on Twitch, YouTube, or over on Facebook. Okay, cruiser crew training, very nice. That let's do spreader. So we'll at least have some. Hey, thanks. We'll at least have some forces in the Philippines. Oh well, it's different. Oh, you're too slow. Get out of there. Okay. You guys are slow. I'll move you down here. I think it's just Arno, but I hope other people start showing up there. Okay, okay, United Kingdom, yes, we will want to give aircraft to United Kingdom. Radar training advance. Actually, you could do tank radio communications. I don't know. You need at war, at war. Okay, so we need to be at war probably. Okay. Silly, but whatever. Radar training. That is down here, 1940. We're gonna let that continue. Find all these texts. Okay, now you get on. Yes, we wanted you to go. Okay, we want an. Thought there was a core command here. Am I just missing it, or? First course. Oh, they're both down here. Damn. Okay. Well, well, we'll have to come back. Okay, so we're gonna head back there. Let's. Yeah, let's put you on board. Don't know if any of these are really scheduled to be upgraded or something, but you come back in here. We want to pick up core HQ where you rebase. To postpone investments in mines 6 months. Industry asks for more money, 450. Okay. Advanced armor designs advance. And engines may be what's required to do. Also, metallurgy. I don't know. I'm just expecting, and maybe it's just silly of me, but I'm expecting a bunch of like tech boosts and things to happen once we're at war. Because that's very much what happened. They just, turned on sort of like all industries, go, research, produce, design, whatever, more, new, better. Payment received, good, get some more money. France, money for supply. Okay. Back to there. Okay, so now, I think we're going to put it in first core. Detach that. Let's put in first core on board the ships. Ships. Is let's send these guys out to the Philippines. I'd rather lose Guam than the Philippines if I got to lose someplace. So let's reinforce here first. I'm hoping to get all of these really soon. I know there's some are coming very soon, but I just want to get some other forces out here. Just now that I saw the war raging here already. So I don't know if Arnold will be able to reinforce Singapore once we get into the war. It may be long gone. Cruiser warfare. It was a good idea though. cruiser warfare. Island fortresses. Yes, we're definitely doing that. We've got these places, you know, fortress, pillbox, beach defense, coastal. There's a port and air base here. We've not gotten on this particular no AA or radar yet, but it'll at least be something. Okay, tungsten surplus. Oh, you're back, Cassavet. That's what think I can pronounce readily. Yeah, they will be. Yes, we can. We'll buy some supplies from you. Okay, submarine crew training. Okay, so we got a bunch of stuff. Just okay, 2 divisions. Okay, marine crew training 41. But let's see about moving that over to damage control. Yes, that's what we would prefer to have. Spotting advance, so we'll be able to look out and see things. You know, yeah, I know it's a 41 technology and we're ready to do, but getting guys upgraded. Okay, so a lot more consumer goods. Let's deploy these divisions. We'll put them here in Santa Barbara. Okay. Well, too good of a general for this. We're not necessarily going to be on that much of a tropic island situation. Yeah, I know these are just phony baloney generals, I think. Well, let's go with I guess, a defensive guy here. I don't know if you hear it. Peacocks. I don't like peacocks. Well, these are the island defenders. These don't have any transportation units as part of them. So let's rebase first out to Midway and then to Wake with 1 division each. All right, Canada. We want to help Canada out. Motorized supports advanced. Very good. Yeah, we want to go after submarines real hard. Okay, well, what do we just... More divisions. Very good. More divisions. Almost 50. Yeah, I think... Let's go to here. nearabouts. We'll get, almost instantaneous, another 13. ICs. Now that our army is growing, we need more support for. All right, good. Okay, well, we're having a bunch of fighter wings coming. We have some carrier aircraft still coming. We need more carrier aircraft. Well, line 42. These are still going to take. These are going to take quite a while to do. Yeah, just some more land-based aircraft would be useful. We'll get that coming here. Okay. Drop these down here. I'm looking for defensive generals. Maybe just straight. Yeah. This is scheduled more for the Philippines. Okay, well, our transport should be back in a while. Okay, we're finally getting to get some destroyers pretty soon. These guys are just moving so slow. These guys are way out here already. Double their speed almost. We've got about double the distance to go. But I'm seeing we may want more. There we are. We want some more, so let's send these guys over to here. They'll come through the Panama Canal. Get them out there. Now let's look at the current situation. Okay, they're pushing into Ukraine pretty hard, pushing up along here. Not too bad for August, not too great, but not too bad. The British are moving into Iraq a bit more. And they're sort of going somewhat historical here in North Africa. That's good. And Italy might just cut off supplies to Khartoum. Right now, it's getting sort of probably rough to get supplies up there. Okay, naval air targeting advance. That I believe is down here. We'll stop that and port strike also because I think start basically at the same time. An extra wide track. Okay, that allows. Good, we did that. Good, that allows us. We'll do medium first. We'll do medium and light, I guess. Right now, those being researched up. Building those yet. We'll get there. We'll be making some kick-ass armored divisions eventually. Capital damage control, that's a good one to do. Keep us from sinking. Japan is pushing down towards Singapore. You do have some supply base there. Some supplies down here, so they're getting Java pretty good, it looks like. Pushing into Burma fairly well. Not enough, but some air power. Go some light bombers. Bunch of stuff. Okay, tungsten. Now, tungsten level 2 surplus, air landing infantry equipment. Okay, there. I know we haven't even done air landing infantry, but that does also help out paratroopers, which we haven't been building. Airborne warfare research. Well, we'll see about that. High density alloys advance. That is here. Grayed out. And gasoline engines. Is that the one that's... Yeah. Okay, so we've got good gasoline engines now. Well, everyone, in approximately 40 minutes, I will be live over on Slytherine's channel playing some Panzer Corps 2 1943 operations. Sort of, I think that, that's post Stalingrad, if I remember correctly. We'll be playing that. I've been playing a bunch of Panzer Corps 2 just on my own. I've been playing through the whole campaign series. But I'll be playing that over on Slytherine at noon my time in, like I say, in about 40 minutes. So if you want to join me over there, I will be streaming. I believe there's already somebody streaming there. They had to rearrange schedules on Thursday because of the release. Very good game if you're into Starship Troopers. There's the new game Starship Troopers Terran Command, an RTS bug killing game. It's very cool. I played a bit of it. So if you want to come and join me over on Slytherine, you can. But I'm going to take a quick break, eat something, get ready, get set up. So I'm needing to hit that on time. So yes, Arno is getting it. I'm going to be ending the stream. And I'll be back tomorrow playing War Thunder, hopefully with Arno and Starstreak. Starstreak has a new computer, relatively new at least. Hopefully both of them will join me playing War Thunder tomorrow. So anybody else can join too. We'll make room. So come and check. If we get enough, we'll do some custom battles. I'd love to do some of that stuff. But if you want to check that out, and of course, like and subscribe and follow over on Twitch and everything. Thank you all. I've been enjoying today and talking about culture, history, society, the war. So thanks everyone.